conversation. Hi, everyone, and welcome. So tell me, how's the last few weeks been for you? You can tell me in the chat, or you can just unmute and just share with me how you have found the last couple of weeks. How has it been for you? Anyone want to share? Does anyone want to share? Does anyone want to share? Nobody's saying anything. Okay, thank you, Kenechiko, for sharing. Thank you for sharing. Okay. So well done. We're hoping that we wrap the program next week. However, after the program, you still have access to the course until the end of August. So you can still go back. Thank you very much, Fidelis, for sharing. So you can still go back to the course again to review if you have to. However, those that completed, if you received our email, I think 2 days ago, you will see there's a form. So we have some advanced training, and only those who completed this training will consider for those other trainings, but you have to choose only one. So because of the time frame and scope of this training, we're not able to do those advanced training, which we wanted to do, but we will still give access to those who complete this training to take just one of those trainings. And they're detailed, very practical and hands-on there. So today's call is going to be the last virtual call that we're going to be having. Next week, we're going to be having the final meetup call, which is going to be physical at Solutions Innovation Hub in Oka. I think details have been sent by emails, and in the coming week and over the weekend, you'll be getting more details about it. I have sent the instructions via email. Please and please read your email, pay attention to it, follow the instruction. If you don't follow the instruction, you will not get what is due to you. In light of that, I want to say thank you very much to all of you that participated. That something is free does not mean people will still collect it. It has cost some people a lot of work and resources to get this together, but yet some people did not, they took it for granted or they just bypassed it, which is absolutely fine. And so if you're able to come this far and you've been showing up for the cause, I want to say thank you, well done, and I am so grateful for you. And we look forward to actually you completing advanced trainings and we pushing opportunities to you. I also look forward to interacting with you one-on-one and seeing ways and possibilities by which I or the organizations that I work with can actually work with you. We look forward to seeing your final assessments. I implore you that please, as you go through the lessons, watch the replay of the final assessment. I beg you, because that is what your what the replays of the coaching falls. I beg you, because that is where the questions for the final assessments are going to come from. I've been saying it from the beginning of the program. Some people will not listen. When they go to the final assessment, they will not say, there's no digital training, there's no digital question in the final assessment. Is just called the peace projects. And that is what it's going to be. I'm telling you now. So please watch it and watch it well. Some people tried, I don't know if they were doing guesswork, but they tried assessments more than 5 times and got knocked out. If that's your case, we can help you. It was specifically stated there in all the instructions, you can't attempt the quiz more than 5 times. If you try the first and second time and it's not working, go back and pay attention and watch again. Pay attention carefully. So we can help you if you're out, you're out. And so that is also going to apply to the final assessments and every other subsequent assessments you have. You have only 5 chances. Don't guess. Don't do it and go and pay attention and listen and learn. The course, yeah, Chukwemeka, you have access to all the lessons until the end of August, even after the end of this program. So until the end of August, you have access to all the lessons. So does anybody have any questions, comments, or contributions for me before I bring up Mr. Omosebi? Today is his final class, and I believe it's going to be very exciting. So do you have any questions, comments, or contributions that you want to share with me today? Any at all? any. If there are none, Mr. Ola, can you turn on your video so I can spotlight you now?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
So welcome, sir.
Okay.
And before I pass the mic to you, I want to say thank you for the last couple of weeks. Thank you for the knowledge, the wisdom, and being there. We're very grateful for you joining on this with us. Um, and so on behalf of the team and on behalf of all the participants, we say thank you. So you have the floor, and then please remember to take questions if they have any, because they might not be able to get this again.
Thank you very much, Miss Excellence. You remain excellent. Thank you for being an amazing organizer, initiator first and foremost, initiating this amazing work to impact lives. I know, yes, you've been huge on women and girls over time, but now combining with men as well is quite remarkable. Thank you very much. And thanks to everyone who has been part of this, all the participants. Thank you very much for being part of this work, this initiative, this learning. It's quite interesting that it will be coming to a close about today. I'm talking about the call. Of course, a lot will still be happening in relation to the initiative itself. I want to say a big thank you to as well to the support team behind the scenes, Miss Blessing, and a host of others who have been making this to happen. So is my screen visible about now?
Yes,
I
it
want to
is.
know. Okay. Okay. So I guess we can roll. Sorry, let me just be sure I'm seeing what I should see so that, yes, so that I'm also part of what is happening. I see Justin. I see Gabriel. Yeah. Let me just acknowledge a few guys. I see Ekene, I see Okafor, Praise, Chukwebuka, I see you. Ngige, I see you. Governor Ngige, I see you. Bartolomeo, I see you. Somebody I was to mention now just zapped off my face. Okay, in case I did not mention your name, please pardon me. Let's hit the ground running. So today, as we round off gradually, as we wind down, as it were, we're looking at civic responsibility. Last week, we looked at civic leadership. Yes, for those technical issues, we couldn't get us to join in directly. So that's why the recording was made, and then shared with us. Again, apologies for my very dark screen. I'm talking about my own face, in case you're trying to also see me. Apologies for that. But all the same, I'm too glad to be part of this. Now, the last 3 weeks, because of time, the last 3 weeks, we've seen the business is you, which was quite important to lay the foundation, starting off with you as a person who has come in to be part of this program. Talking about the personal value that we must evolve with, values as the case may be in plural, and then learning to identify and develop your own unique value proposition, building your professional network, collaborating with others, and setting goals, setting and achieving goals. And then the week 2, we went on to look at peace and conflict resolution. Very important. We touched a bit on how to build, after understanding conflicts and its causes, and also coming to understand that conflict is not necessarily always an evil thing. At times, it is a pointer towards how things can be improved, how things can get better, and so on and so forth. And then we looked at, under that same module, we looked at skills, communication skills for building peace, for resolving conflicts, mediation, negotiation techniques, and our role as young people. And then last week, we looked at, we delved more into leadership skills and qualities. And we spent quite some time looking at our leadership skills. We looked at community service and volunteerism, public speaking and advocacy, decision making, and problem solving. So where do we go this week? Where do we go today? All right, we want to focus now, since we've looked at civic leadership, now I want to look at civic responsibility. All right, so we'll be covering these highlights as fast as we can. Today, I don't want us to spill our time, so we just need to hit the ground running. There is this saying, even though a lot of people attribute it to the movie Spider-Man, but it's actually from Voltaire. With great power comes great responsibility. You'll see some versions that say, with great power comes great responsibilities in plural. But I mean, it's all talking about the same concepts of understanding, that thought that you cannot just be saddled with power and then you sit down on it. There's a reason why you've been saddled, you've been equipped, you've been empowered with such skills, with such understanding, with such exposure. It is to take responsibility. And I'm sure we all should be able to relate to that. If in the last weeks, not just for this call alone, but other components of this initiative, we've been partaking, we've been participating, all of that is to equip us, is to build us, is to grant us power, in quotes, so that we can now go ahead and take responsibility, and quite a number of responsibilities that we would definitely be encountering, and we should be encountering by now. So what is this civic responsibility we are talking about? It comes with our rights, our duties as young people. Our rights and our duties as young people. So civic rights. What do we mean by civic rights? Essentially, it means it is a component of democracy. When you talk of civic rights, it evolves with democracy. There are some forms of government and governance that do not recognize civic rights. Of course, you know that there have been quite a number of practices around the world where you don't talk about civic rights as much. Even if they are spoken of, it's quite silent. So civic rights, civic responsibilities, civic duties are a major component of democracy. Don't forget that democracy is a government by the people, for the people, and of the people, and so on and so forth. So civic rights, they are guarantees of equal social opportunities and protection under the law, regardless of race, religion, and other characteristics. And examples of civic rights are rights to vote, rights to fair trial. There should not be cases of, what do you call it, jungle justice. It is total, anyway, we'll get to talk about that shortly. It's totally anti-social, anti-human. Jungle justice is not correct in any form, in any way. And then right to government services, right to social amenities, right to public education, and so on and so forth. And so when you look at that image by the side, it just gives you a snapshot of what civic rights cover. And of course, civic rights are human rights. So you talk about education, right to assemble with those who you want to assemble with, right to associate with whoever you want to associate with, right of movement, right of religion. If you say you want to worship firewood and stone, it's entirely your right. Nobody else has a right to take that right from you, as you should understand. Right of speech. But of course, you will be discussing how much rights you can exercise. You can't say because you have the rights of speech and then you raise lies against me. I don't know whether you know what that is called in law. When you say things that are not true about me, you go to the public space and say, Mr. Ola is a liar. Mr. Ola is a criminal. Mr. Ola is this. You would have to substantiate that. And you don't even have the right to use such terms. You can only allege. And when you allege, you have to bring your facts. You have to take your facts to a competent arm of government that is able to determine whether what you have said is true or false. Even the police cannot determine a case, cannot call anyone criminal. The police, the responsibility of the police is to arrest errant or erring citizens or even non-citizens and hand them over to a competent court of law to determine whether they have actually committed a crime or not. So people also have rights to press, both to push out information and to also collect, to also be part of press information. People have rights to information. They have rights to thoughts. They have rights to education, and so on and so forth. So combining civic duties and responsibilities in technical terms. Civic duties are part of a citizen's responsibility, apparently, in exchange for which they receive the benefits of the society. Again, examples of civic duty include paying of taxes, serving on a jury. You can be called upon, you can be invited to be part of a jury to determine a case in a society, in your local community, for example. Attending a school, testifying in court, ensuring the protection of the environment, and so on and so forth. So it is a combination of your rights and your responsibilities that really tells your citizenship. So how are you able to determine citizenship of a society, of a state? It is one, that you have rights. But then secondly, too, that you are dispensing responsibilities and carrying out certain duties. You see, that's why if you don't balance it too, there'll be issues. That's why you find out that we have some Nigerians who have, what's the common word we use? Japa, who have ported to other countries, who have relocated. But then after some time, they are deported. Why? Because they probably fail in the area of responsibilities and duties. So yes, they may have rights that they want to exercise, but then when they overstep their rights into some other person's rights, do something that they're not supposed to do, something that is adjudged criminal or an offense against the state or an offense against somebody else, as the case may be, then they get deported. I read some weeks ago, I think, of a wife, husband and wife, apparently in the UK, of how a wife, I can't remember what he reported the husband to have done. And then that was going to bring, they had an irreconcilable of some sort, an irreconcilable difference amongst themselves. And so they were so bent on ending it. But then both of them are immigrants into the UK. And so the wife told on the husband, put up a report, an allegation against the husband as it were. And it was determined to be so. And so they were going to deport the husband. So the husband too said, I have a report. The license, the credentials my wife has been using to practice as a nurse, they are forged. And then they also investigated and found out that that was true. So both of them were bundled and deported out of the UK. You can imagine. So it means they have already overstepped in the area of their duties, their responsibility. They have now committed certain offenses, certain criminal acts, as it were, in quotes, and then they were bounced back to their original nation. What if they had also lost their nationhood, their citizenship in Nigeria? That means they are citizens of nowhere. In any case, if that were to be the case, they would have been tried in that country. Nobody would deport them. If they were total citizens, if they were outright citizens of that country, they are not secondary citizens. They are not citizens of an African nation who is now seeking what's it called, citizenship in this new country. All right, we move because of time. Yes. All right. So in this, there must be respect for law and order. What do we refer to as law and order? A situation in which laws are obeyed and people behave in an organized and peaceful way. Law and order is being maintained. A law-abiding person always obeys the law and is considered to be good and honest because of this. Now, not doing anything that contravenes the laws of the land. So it is one thing to say, I am law abiding. It's another thing not to do something to contravene the law. So take, for example, some time ago, I was driving, and I'm so conscious of that. I do not like to get into the way of the, law enforcers, as it were, enforcement agencies or agents, as it were. So I had my earpiece on, connected to my phone, but then my phone was on my lap, on my leg, while I was driving. My hands were on the steering. And so they flagged me down. I didn't have any issues. And then this guy was like, Oga, you have committed an offense. I said, which offense? See my earpiece. It's right in my ears. And he said, but you have your phone on your lap. I said, yeah. So he said, I said, how can that be an offense? It doesn't make any sense to me. He said, the law says zero contact with your phone. I said, come on, guy. That does not make any sense again. What you guys have been advocating for, have been arresting all this while, is you using your phone while driving, having your phone in your hand. No law says you should not have any contact with your phone, as this case may be. He said, no, it's the law, zero contact. He said he needs to read it to me. And then we dragged it, and I saw that he was really going to take a stand to interpret it that way. So at some point when he said I should identify myself, and then I brought out one or two ID cards, he saw a particular ID card, and that was what saved me. And then we discussed, he said, but next time, don't have any. He said that is the interpretation they would give it. When he says zero contact with your phone, I say, really? But me using the phone and I'm making a call, is that not a contact? He said, no, that's not what they're interpreting. I say, you see, that means it's now subject to your interpretation, and then it can be subject to several interpretations. I said, I'm not using the phone. My hands are on the steering. The phone is just on my lap, but then I got the point, So for me too, since then, I realized that the phone should not be on my lap, on my leg. It should just be by itself. So the law too can be very funny. I'm sure some of you are probably having a laugh right now. So I want us to discuss now, because I know this one will be a bit technical, as it were. So I want us to discuss now. This is discussion one. We're going to have another one later on. So you might want to turn on your microphones now. If I have 3-4 people to contribute, today is not going to be as heavily loaded as we had last week and previously. What 5 societal laws do people? I'm not accusing you now. You get it. So this is not being light on anybody. So you might use yourself as an example without mentioning your name. But what 5 societal laws do you think people in your community have issues with the most? In other words, that they commit or they hope to commit. So let's go, guys. Microphones on, talk to me. What laws do you think people commit, or do you think that people have issues with in your community, in your place of locality, in your place of residence, or where you work? Yes, let's talk.
Hello?
Who is talking to me? Yes, hello.
Okay, Chukwebuka here.
Thank you, Chukwebuka. Go ahead.
Okay. From my own aspect, I would say on the aspect of people throwing debts anyhow.
Thank you, Sterling. People dumping refuse anyhow. People throwing dirt anyhow. That's a good one. In fact, as a rider to that, there was a time, because of the youth network I belonged to at some point, there was a time that I would literally in traffic, maybe there's a slight traffic stop at the traffic light, and I see somebody throwing or maybe it's even a traffic buildup. I see somebody throwing a sachet of pure water, empty sachet of pure water out of the window or wrapper of something. I'll come down from the car, especially if I'm not driving. I'll come down and go and pick it and dump it back in their car. So those were some of the the exuberance that we also did, but in all in the name of protecting, the environment, as it were, which we'll touch on a little bit later. So thank you for that example. Yes, another example. Somebody please talk to me. Another example.
Yeah, hello.
Yes, hello.
Yeah, good evening.
Good evening.
Bartholomew.
Bartholomew, yeah.
Yeah, another example would be drunk driving.
Drunk driving. Don't drink and drive. Thank you for that. Don't drink and drive. That one is global. It's also one of those global examples all over the world. Don't drink and drive. All right. Unfortunately, I'm not sure how much we enforce it here. Like quite some Western countries, nations, the US, the UK, and all that. But that's a good example. Don't drink and drive. Yes. Any other example? Example?
Hello.
Hello, go ahead.
Not respecting traffic law.
Not trafficating. Is that what you said?
No, not respecting the traffic.
Not respecting
signal.
traffic law. Thank you very much. Yes, that one is also very common in this part of the world. And of course, we know that when there are no penalties, there is every likelihood that offenses will increase. When there are no penalties, when there's no arrest, all of those things, as you know, offenses will likely be on the increase. Any other one? There are quite a number of them.
Hello?
Yes, hello. Go ahead, please. Your name and give us the example.
Okay, Fidelismus. And I'll say one could be overloading of vehicles and driving of good vehicles on the road.
Driving off
bad vehicles
vehicles
that are not roadworthy.
Sure. Yeah, and that's an interesting one because you just touched on something that Nigerians like to also twist around, and they say our roads vehicle worthy. So you also have those arguments. People say, but our roads are not vehicle worthy. How do you arrest motorists, but then you don't arrest government who has failed to give us good roads? But that's a good one. So you have, and that applies to, especially road users, drivers, especially commercial vehicle drivers who try to overload to make extra money and so on and so forth. Yeah, very good example. There's also one that is quite common. And a lot of young men, in fact, a lot of people, let me not just say young men, a lot of people flout it. And that is just stopping indiscriminately anywhere and weeing by the roadside. You just let it go. You just pee by that wall that is considered a no man's wall. You just stop, go there by the bush, by the roadside, and just pee once you are pressed. Is there anyone here that can say they've not committed that offense before? Anybody? That you've not committed, you've not gone by the roadside to wee by that wall? Chuku Akabogu, you are raising your hand. You've not committed that offense before. For real? For
yes,
real?
sir. Okay. Yes.
Oh, truly. That's a good one.
Yes, sir.
Any other person? I'm sure no other person will raise their hand. I've committed the offense before. I was terrifically pressed. The closest place that will get a place to wee conveniently would be most likely like 1 kilometer away. And I was not about to wee on myself. In fact, it happened quite recently. One I can even remember that happened recently. My car tire went flat. I didn't even know. My windows were wound up, fully air conditioned, and then somebody signaled me and said, your tire is down. And in actual fact, I started smoking. I didn't know. The, what do you call it? the device, there's a name for it now, I forgot. Just keep in mind, the device in the car that should let me know that that tire was down was bad. So I didn't know. So I stopped in this place where thankfully cars were moving frequently. So, and it was daytime. So I was sure nobody was going to rob me. I wouldn't get robbed, you know, but then I was here trying to get I couldn't even get a vulcanizer. I mean, the closest again was probably like a kilometer or two away. So I needed to help myself sort it out. But then I was pressed, you know. So, but those ones usually would qualify under offenses other than criminal acts. All right, let's move because of time. I think we get the idea. Okay, so where was I? This thing is not okay. Sorry, okay. So now let's talk to environmental stewardship. All right, what does this mean? It refers to the responsible use and protection of the natural environment through active participation in conservation and sustainable practices by individuals, small groups, non-profit organizations, federal agencies, and every other person apparently. So you see the words are underlined, and I deliberately picked this from Wikipedia because I do not want us to go too technical. This module in particular is meant to be an exposure, an introductory kind of module where you just get to know a little about what civic responsibility means, and then these components that are highlighted underneath. So underline the word natural environment, underline the word conservation, underline the word sustainable. So it's not enough to just say you've protected or you've helped to show efforts towards conserving at that point in time. Can you sustain that approach, that method, that effort over time? Okay. So let's read a little more about environmental stewardship. Under environmental stewardship, then we talk about environmental protection, which is considered the practice of protecting the natural environment by individuals, groups, just like we read earlier. Its objectives are to conserve natural resources and the existing natural environment, and where it is possible to repair damage and reverse trends. Now, interestingly, just yesterday, I had the opportunity to moderate a conference put together by the United States Agency for International Development. The conference was titled Mangroves in Focus. Quite a number of the Niger Delta states and some bit of some part of the southeastern states, southwestern states have mangroves, especially Niger Delta and South have mangroves. And the major challenge is that quite a number of these mangroves have been eroding rapidly. And of course, affecting the environment, affecting the aquatic life, affecting the biodiversity, elements of nature in those areas. And of course, this have an entire effect on the nation. So you have instances where even birds will lay their eggs not in trees, but on floor. They are not able to do so again. And even when they do so, there are cases of fire, gas explosions and so on and so forth, pollution of water, fish dying, crab lives, aquatic life generally dying off and all that. And so some creatures are going into extinction by these effects on the mangroves, as it were. So those were all the discussions we had just yesterday. So it's so interesting that it's coincidentally fitting into the discussion we're having today. So we are not just talking about, yes, the areas many of us would really be limited to our physical environment, which includes the artificial environment, the buildings, the roads. Somebody spoke of refuse dump earlier. But then we want us to think globally not just around the physical, artificial, human structures alone and infrastructure. Let's also think broadly around the natural environment. So conservation protects the environment through responsible use of natural resources. However, preservation protects the environment from harmful human activities. Don't forget that component. Very important. But again, we won't go too much into the technicalities, but at least remember those two technical terms. Conservation is protecting the environment through the responsible use of natural resources, whereas preservation is protecting the environment from harmful human activities. I hope you got that. All right. So discussion, again, so that we just do light touch, because I want us to have quite some discussions. I want us to be able to reflect on all we've learned in the last 4 weeks, this being the 4th week. Discussion, in what ways do you think people harm the environment in your locality? Again, another discussion. So don't get cozy. This is what we're doing today. In what ways do you think people harm the environment in your locality? Somebody had already mentioned indiscriminate disposal of refuse. Yes. Contributions. Contributions. Hello? Yes, hello. Your name and your contribution.
Okay, my name is Bartolome.
Yes, please.
By blocking the drainage.
Thank you. So by extension, when we do indiscriminate, when we engage in indiscriminate dumping of refuse, litter here and there, the drainages get blocked. Yes, another one. Thank you for that. Go ahead.
Okay, I would say people cutting down of trees and then burning of.
Absolutely. Burning of
trees.
Bush burning. Yeah?
Yeah.
Burning of trees, burning. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry, I didn't get that.
I say bush burning and burning of trees. Because,
excellent.
Sends the carbon monoxide to this environment.
Thank you very much. Excellent, excellent. So cutting down, in fact, you've mentioned like 3 things. Cutting down of trees, indiscriminate cutting down of trees. Is it that we are saying don't cut down trees at all? No, there'll be reasons to cut down trees for, commercial use, for industrial use, for home use, but it must be controlled. You can't just go and any tree you see that you fell them down and convert them to firewood or convert them to whatever you want to go. No. Trees, there are trees that are being planted particularly for that purpose. It cannot just be indiscriminate felling of trees. So thank you for that. Yes, any other one? And then, of course, you mentioned bush burning and trees burning indiscriminately. I keep adding that word indiscriminate, meaning that it's not guided, it's not policed, it's not well directed. Yes, any other one? Any other one? Harmful practices.
All right, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
All right. So, building of factories or building of factories where people are living.
Building of factories where people are living. Yes,
like
yes, that's also very important. Residential area.
Yes, exactly. That's the term I wanted to use.
So yes, that's why you see there are disciplines focusing on that, urban planning, town planning, and all of that. They are specifically to manage such things. Unfortunately, unlearned folks don't understand the essence of their existence. It is to manage them, where factories should be located. Even if you're going to have business concerns in residential areas, there are the kinds of businesses, there are the kinds of maybe very mild factories, light production factories that can be located in residential areas that do not cause so much harm. For example, pure water production can be in a small property in a residential environment and not be and not cause any major problem. But for factories that need to create a lot of combustion, a lot of emission that will cause a lot of pollution in the environment, those are not friendly, including noise pollution. So you have even some religious, entities that become nuisance, in quotes, to a particular environment. People are sleeping in the early hours of the day. There's a cry for come out for prayers and so on and so forth, and then they lose their sleep. And the prayer house, in quotes, or the mosque or the church is just close to somebody's house, and they are making a huge noise. They are not putting any effort to ensure that the noise is contained as much as possible on their own premises. Very good example as well. Yes, any other one?
Hello?
Yes. Who is speaking?
Chinetram.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Okay. Use of acidic fertilizers in agriculture.
Very good. Very good. I like that example too. At least we're able to relate this discussion to some of our own areas, discipline and things. And that's what it should be. That's the essence of this discussion. Yes. So who is able to, is there an agency of government? I'm sure there are regulatory agencies that should curtail, that should help look into such practices like you mentioned now, use of acidic, components in agriculture that could be harmful to wildlife. It might be helpful to the plants, but it might be harmful to other creatures, to livestock, for example. Yeah?
I would say
example.
NAFDAC.
NAFDAC, okay. NAFDAC. There might be one or two others that should also be involved, agricultural regulatory body. Okay, but that's a good one. There's a second person too that was about saying something.
Yeah, I said oil spillage.
Oil spillage. Yes, that is huge. That is massive in oil producing areas. And it's a discussion we have every day in this country, especially for the oil producing areas, the Niger Delta region. Oil spillage is massive, extremely massive. Thank you for that. Any other person with an example? Any other example? Okay, everybody seems to have, but I would like us to explore this a little more. In what ways do you think people harm the environment in your locality? Some of them are connected, by the way. Take, for example, I don't know whether it happens in your locality, but this is applicable in almost all cities of this nation. There are these guys in Abuja in the north, they call them Mebola. They go to remove the cover of manholes. I don't know whether you're familiar with that. They remove the cover of manholes, which connects to the contribution of the first person who contributed. Because when you remove the covers of the manholes, those covers are perforated that will allow water to flow into the manhole, into the drains, into the drainages, but then it would retain all those, what do you call them? All those sachet water, empty sachet of sachet water, paper and all those stuff. It would retain them so that it's easy to clear those ones, grass and all that, papers, plastics, bowls and all that. It retains them. But once they go in the middle of the night, they go to remove those things, they go and melt them into some other items and resell. Then the manholes are open. And so anything and everything flows in. And in a short space of time, the drainages are blocked. Yeah. I also grew up in a part of Lagos called Mushin, where you have this railings in the middle of the highway. Railings, they will go in the middle of the night and be cutting the railings. They cut them. They literally cut them, take them, go and weigh them, at their own pawn shop, so to say, their own pawn center, sell them off. They do that every night until they had cut off virtually all the railings. The only ones they couldn't cut off were the ones buried in the ground. But all the other railings that people, that divided the road, they cut them off and they took them away, melted them into some other items, So many practices, pollution, air pollution by smokers, in the environment, in the area with India hemp. And you know what they say about smoking, that secondary smokers are even more at risk than the primary smokers. However, that is true or wrong or not true. It does not matter. What matters is that there is a harmful practice against the environment, against the people in the environment. And I like the fact that we have expanded it. So don't just think about the physical environment, the inanimate environment. Think also about the humans, what we do to our own selves, to harm one another, to harm each other, in quotes. So these are very important conversations we must be having, because you see, one of the important benefits that we want you to have from this program is to be able to impact not just in your business space alone, but to become responsible citizens wherever you find yourself. And this is one of the areas we must demonstrate responsibility, in the area of environmental protection, conservation and protection. Let's move because of time. Now, let's touch a bit on social justice. What does social justice mean? Social justice is justice in relation to the proper distribution of wealth, opportunities, and privileges within a society where the rights of individuals are recognized and protected. I'm sure that should make sense to us. So when we talk about social justice, we are referring to that distribution, equitable distribution of wealth, opportunities, privileges in a society where the rights of individuals are recognized and protected. And there are according to a school of thought, there are 5 main principles of social justice. They include, number 1, access to resources. 2, equity. Can I pause here and ask a question? Let me pause here and ask a question. Maybe I'll get a right answer. What is the difference between equality and equity? What is the difference between equality and equity? Somebody please talk to me. 1 or 2 contributors?
Hello?
Yes, hello. I can hear you.
Okay. It's Bartholomew.
Go ahead, Bartholomew.
Equality is a way of this, that like it's like distributing resources equally. Assumption that if we're like here now, maybe you already have a car, and I don't have a car. Equality assume that if you want to distribute car, we should give you one, and give me one. Understand?
Yes.
Then
yes.
Equity assume that if you want to distribute a car, since you already have one, you don't need another car. So I should get one. Maybe you get other things that you need. So it's by equity, do things by needs. Why equality is just let us share it equally, everybody.
I like that. Yes. Justin, let's hear you too.
Okay. The man that spoke last got it, but the way I want to put it is equality is like giving things accordingly. Then why equity is like balancing it up. Let me make an example now. Let's say I and you and maybe Mrs. Excellence are to share something now. Let's say you have 3, I have 2, Mrs. Excellence have, let's say, 1. You get, and we are given, let's say, 9 objects to share. So to make it equal, 3 of us we get 3 each. But if it's to make it equity, that means you get 1, so that your own will now be 4. I'll now get 2, so that my own will now be 4. She will now get 3, so that her own will now be 4. That's equity.
Oh, interesting. I like this.
Excuse me.
Okay. Thank you, Justin. Thank you. Beautiful contributions from those two. Yes. Somebody said,
Okay.
excuse me. Go ahead. Let's know you. And
Thanks, ma'am. Okay. I would say equality
who is
has to
speaking,
do.
please? Introduce yourself. Chinecherem. Okay. Go ahead, please.
Okay, so I believe equality has to do with even distribution of resources across a number of people.
Okay.
And equity has to do with fairness, irrespective of the social status of the people that are involved in the distribution. So, for example, equality can be when between 2 people now, they have 100 oranges, and we ensure that each person between these 2 people gets 50 oranges. That means that they are evenly distributed. Then equality.
So what is that?
That's equality.
That's equality. Okay. Yeah.
Then equity has to do with giving each of them 50 oranges, irrespective of who like one of those 2 people may be. Let's say one of them may be a policeman and the other person may be like a mechanic. So equity ensures that they get 50-50, irrespective of their social status. So that's how I understand
another dimension. Yeah. That's
Can I
another
come in there,
interesting
please?
dimension. Okay, somebody wants to talk. Yeah, go ahead. That's why we're here.
So I wanted to.
Your name, please.
Oluebube.
Oh, okay, okay.
Okay, so I agree with everyone's description of equality, but what I want to talk about is equity.
Okay.
The last speaker gave the what will I say, the structural definition of it, but when he's trying to give the examples, he's still mixing it up. So equity in that sense would be maybe to compare, since orange is in the question, to know each of them who needs the orange more and who needs oranges less. For example, one may actually have more kids than the other person who is sharing the oranges with them. So at the end of the day, you see that it is fair to give the guy that only has a kid maybe 30 oranges. And then the other person that has maybe 4 kids, you give the person 70 oranges. That is equity. You are trying to be fair because in terms of usefulness of what you're giving out, the resources you're giving out, the usefulness, it will have much more impact to the 2 because you are you made certain verifications, validations to make sure the sharing is fair. And what that thing does is that it eliminates waste. When you apply that theory of equity, maybe the person you gave 30 will end up being able to consume and get filled up. Other than maybe he has 50 at disposal, he consumes 30 and wastes 20 because it's not useful to them. So I think that's exactly what equity deals with: fairness in terms of sharing, not minding the social status. That this person is taller than this person, this person is more privileged than this person. But at that moment, you're looking at what should get to everybody because of their needs, not really because they were present or whatever.
Very good. Very good. Very good. I saw a hand up. Do you still want to make that contribution? Maybe we'll take that as the last one.
Yes.
Okay.
Good evening. So
Good
on the issue
evening.
of equity,
Your
I just
name,
wanted to
please.
Chukwuemeka
Your
Okafor
name, please.
Chukwuemeka.
Okay. Go ahead.
My name is Okafor Chukwuemeka.
Yes, go ahead, sir. I
So
heard that.
I wanted to add something to the I wanted to add something in terms of equity. When we are small, there's a story of something that happened in my place between a family. So what happened was that the man was married to 2 wives. The first wife has only 1 son, while the second wife has about 6 sons. Now, when it was time to share the man's land, the first son, knowing that he's the only son of his mother, was insisting that the land should be shared according to each wife. That is to say that if the man has 10 plots of land, 5 plots will be given to first wife, second wife, second plot. I mean, another 5 plots will be given to the second wife.
Yeah.
But when it resulted to problems, the kindred that came to settle the matter, what they decided was the land will be shared per head, not per wife. Because if you share it 5 to this person, only 1 person will have wife, will have 5, while the other brother at 6 will share 5. So that's what I wanted to.
Thank you. I like this practical examples we're also giving. We've moved from oranges to inheritance, which is good. And that's the
Hello,
whole
good
idea.
evening. Can I still add something?
Somebody said the kindred didn't stick to the tradition. Okay, we'll take just 1 or 2 more. 1 or 2 more. Yeah.
Okay,
we're
good evening. Zonye Josiah.
Josiah, go
Okay.
ahead, please.
All right. So I agree with everyone's contribution, but I want to come from a different dimension. Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Let's say in a classroom, maybe there was an offense that they committed. So in my own understanding, equality means maybe if punishment is being administered to them, let's say the teacher gave each student 2 stroke of where each student was supposed to receive 2 stroke of cane. Then each one of them actually got that 2 stroke of cane. That's equality. And then in equity, let's say there's an opportunity, maybe a scholarship that came, and the organization that was offering the scholarship said that the amount of students they needed was 20 people who met a certain criteria. Then if the organization makes sure that those people that actually met those criteria were the ones their names were given to the organization, irrespective whether if they are related to the school authority or this thing. So to me, that's equity.
Very good. Another good example. Yes. I mean, you've all spoken well, and equity and equality should be well weighed in whatever we are doing. So I deliberately wanted us to discuss that because many times there are mix-ups. But then you see, even with that, there has to be so many other factors to bring to the fore, or else even the concept of equity becomes a problem. Just like somebody wrote and said, they didn't keep to the tradition. So even the concept of equity would become a problem. So many factors have to come to the fore to determine that, there has to be certain tools, certain measures, certain factors to be able to determine that this approach of equity is actually equity and not anything else. This one should get 5 by the need and not because somebody else is determined that you should get 5. So I like that example of the 2 wives, one with 1 child, the other with 5 children. It shows clearly that the kindred that came in as the umpire, I think they did the right thing. I think so. I don't know about the tradition, but I think they did the right thing because apparently these are all 5 human beings. This is 1 human being. So why don't they all get, these things equally distributed? However, it might be also traditionally right to say the firstborn should still get something extra to show that it's firstborn. Again, it depends on those who are coming in to umpire as umpires to judge the matter and what is acceptable to a group of people. Justin, quick one because we need to move. Go ahead, quick one.
Okay. Yeah, I was the one that made that comment. See why I made the comment? You know, marriage is between a man and his wife, not the children. So now he married 2 wives. So when he dies, the property becomes the property of the wife, not the children. So in that case, that will be divided into.
You have gone in a direction that will not be agreed by many people. Let's just leave it where we have left it.
Yeah, that's how it's done in most Igbo community. That's why I said the kingdom made a mistake. But no problem. Let's continue.
Yes,
I disagree. That's not how it is with the Igbo community. Please, let's leave it just like the Oga said. We should leave it where it is. Please, let's leave it there.
Let's leave it there. You see, and again, but you see, it's good we're having these conversations all the same. Just with this comment, now we can see that it's not necessarily, it may not necessarily be so in all cases. So something that is how it is, that the wives will be used as the matrix of judgment. Some others say, no, it's not so in our own community, in all communities. So you see, and that's why we have to have these conversations. Social justice. And that's why with this new knowledge you are acquiring, yes, for some, it's just you are sharpening a knowledge you had known before, you had had before. But we need to sharpen our knowledge, go as knowledgeable people, as enlightened people to help our people, to help our communities. What will be the essence of being learned, of being exposed, of having this kind of training? And it does not reflect in anything that we do at domestic level, at family level, at business level, at enterprise level. No, it must reflect. That's the essence. Or else you go and do business the way you've always done it. You go and do things the way you've always done it. And that does not put you in a good position. What is the essence of being a learned person? So let's take this knowledge and take them home, go and have discussions. And you see, it's always good for learned people to ask questions that will provoke people to think. Not questions like dullards, not asking questions like ignoramuses, you know what I mean, but asking questions in such a way that people will be provoked to think. Take, for example, use a digression, but an example. Years back when I was still a teenager, I think it was my first year in the university. And then something happened at the home front. And I mean, my dad was this, strong disciplinarian kind of person, but at times, some of us judge him as being extreme. He gets angry over even little things and then could beat hell out of you and beat heaven inside you. That kind of, some of us have that kind of parents, those kind of parents. So in this instance, something had happened, something that was not even my fault, so to say. And then he came and said, yes, I'm going to trash you. I'm going to beat you. So I just said to him, I said, Daddy, and it had been long before then, before any issue of, long before then, that we had any issue of beating or not beating and all that. So I said to him, Daddy, I said, I will submit myself for you to beat me. I said, but I'm going to take it against you as an act of wickedness. That's what I told him, Daddy. I said, I'll take it against you as an act of wickedness. He looked at me, was shocked. I said, yes. I said, if at my age, I'm now in my first year in the university and you're still talking of beating me. I said, I don't understand, sir. And I was saying it so respectfully, but all the things I was saying was quizzing him, was querying him, was acting like a man looking at himself in the mirror. I said, you are going to beat me at this age? I said, well, I'll submit myself for that beating. I said, but I'll take it as an act of wickedness, as an act of wickedness. And I will not forget. I said, I'll use it against you in the future. The man was shocked. He sat down, he dropped the cane. He looked at me. He said, go away, go, just go, leave me alone. And then after some time, he called me back and said he gave a deep thought to what I've said, that I've never spoken like that before. He said it shows that I'm growing up. It shows that I'm maturing. Of course, you know elders now, they will find a way to still make the story their own story and not want to look too bad. He said, very good. He said, that's the kind of thing I want to see. Now you are maturing. He said, and I've given a thought to that. Okay, don't worry. We'll work it out. Because I made him realize that over what? I can't remember what the offense was. And it was not even an offense. It was just an assumed offense that I had committed. It was just assuming that this thing, you did X, Y, Z. And then I said, over what? This is why you are going to beat me. We have not stopped this beating matter after all this while. So again, I'm putting this to you, that one of the ways we can challenge and we can champion change in our various localities and environment is to ask questions that will get people thinking. Everything is not about fighting. It's not about agitation. It's not about aggression. At times, ask questions. Put out questions. Put out thoughts. Let people go and reflect. Especially when you are dealing with people who have been stuck in doing things the way they've always done it. Traditional thinking, traditional practices. You see, some of the traditions, it's not just in Igbo land, in everywhere. In the Yoruba land, some of the traditions people uphold, they don't even know why they uphold those traditions. They were just told that this is how it must be done. And then you look at it and say, what is this thing? What is the big deal in this matter? Why must this thing be done this way? What result, what positive result has it brought about? And there's no positive result. So let's move because of time. So access to resources is one of the principles. Equity, second principle. Participation, when you talk about social justice, principles of participation. Principles also of diversity, to be able to reach out to everyone, cover everyone. And then principle of protecting the human rights of each and every individual. So don't forget these. Of course, you'll see some other expanded version of the principles of social justice, but this, I think this works, this 5 work. All right. Time. My screen is frozen. Okay. I think we are good now. So importance of social justice. There are just these 10, according to humanrightscareers.com. Okay, Bartholomew is raising his hand. If it's very important, let's hear it quickly. We need to wrap it up now. We've taken so much time.
Okay. I have issue with diversity.
Okay.
I want to know why is diversity social justice? Is diversity undermines competence?
Sorry, say that again.
Diversity undermines competence.
Okay, so that means you have interpreted diversity from a narrow prism. When it talks about diversity, it's not saying that you must pick everyone from every place. It's saying that you must consider everyone. Do you get the difference now? So put everyone into consideration. So it's more about the consideration. And then if you are coming up with a matrix, if you are coming up with a criteria, let everyone agree to it, that this is the criteria and we subscribe to it. Do you get it now? So that if the criteria eliminates them, then they will not cry foul. They will understand that we all agree to that criteria. For example, the example of the family wealth distribution we're speaking of earlier. If the criteria for sharing inheritance is that the more children you have, the more you get, then everybody will be turned into a factory making, a baby factory making, item, as it were. I'm not saying that is a good criteria. I'm just saying that if that is what they use as a determinant, then so be it. But you cannot come in the middle of the game and change the rules of the game. So do you understand diversity now from that point of angle?
Yes.
It's about consideration, not necessarily qualification, but consideration. Thank you.
Okay.
All right. So importance, these are just 10 importance of social justice. Number one, it ensures that everyone gets the essentials for a good life.
Yeah.
Well, it is perceived that in a society that works, because don't forget that all of this is also, there are theories for society that works and that is working and that is being helped to work. So when we refer to Nigeria as, for example, Nigeria as a developing society. Some scholars would disagree and say, no, we are underdeveloping because things are supposed to be progressive. They are not progressive. They're actually retrogressing. So it's not developing. All right, let me move because of time. So, but these are key pointers to what will be applicable in a society that is working, even if it's not developed, but that is developing, that is evolving. It ensures that everyone, number one, it ensures that everyone gets the essentials for a good life. Number two, it ensures everyone gets adequate healthcare, for example. It ensures that people with disability are protected. It protects people from religious-based discrimination. Worship whatever you want to worship. And if you also say that I don't believe in God, so be it. It's up to you. At best, somebody can only try to persuade you. There's nothing wrong in somebody talking to you, trying to persuade you. What would be wrong is somebody trying to impose and enforce their own religion on you. It also protects people from ageism. That is to suggest that when people get to an age where they can no longer work, unfortunately, that is not being enforced here. But in developed climes, you have social safety nets specially designed for the aged, for the elderly, those who they call the senior citizens. They've served, they've worked for quite a number of years. Now they can't work anymore, they need to retire, but they cannot just retire into nothingness. There should be something that is made available for them, to cater for them. It may not be massive wealth, but something that ensures that they are feeding, they are clothing, they have access to social amenities. Those who want to read, they can go to library and read without any payments for any service of such. They have access to whatever healthcare at basic level. It is only if it goes beyond a particular level that then their children may need to come to the rescue. So that is also there. It protects people from sexually based discrimination and violence. That's also something I'm hugely involved in, talking about as the sexual gender-based violence. We are hugely involved in anti-sexual gender-based violence, and then we've gotten through one or two NGOs, I've gotten to be able to, at some point, I was even in Abakaliki some years ago to train religious leaders on how they can become active champions in rescuing the homes, rescuing women especially, but of course men in some cases too, from situations and circumstances of sexual and gender-based violence. Of course, women are usually more on the receiving end as against men. But then we found out that in some cases too, some men are also on the receiving end. And of course, children too become products of broken homes, become products of violence, domestic violence and battery and all of that. So, I mean, these are some of the areas of social justice some of us can also play massively in. Then it also promotes equality between genders. No gender is rated above the other. I'm not talking about roles. I know some of us will not interpret this correctly also. I'm not talking about roles in the home or whatever. However, we interpret that at our various, through our various orientations and, upbringings, religious practices and tradition. That's fine. But the gender in itself, one should not be seen better than the other. For example, you see how it is also with sharing of inheritance. You will now find out a case where they say because these ones are girls, they don't have rights to inheritance. Only the male children have rights to inheritance. Would you consider that fair? Would you consider that justice? Some of us think it's not fair enough, okay? Or you have a case where you say because this man has died, is our son, so all of the properties that he had acquired, you collect from the wife. You say, since we married her, she doesn't have a right. So you collect everything. You don't care whether the woman was instrumental to that wealth. Let's even assume that she's not directly instrumental. Shouldn't she also be a beneficiary of the late husband? She's also mourning. She's also in sorrow. She's also in pain. She's also in loss. And then you take everything away from her and say she doesn't have a right to inheritance. It's our son's properties, cars, land, houses, and all. We just collect everything. Now, don't be shocked because some people may think that I'm attacking a part of the country. No. It happens in different societies, in different tribal segmentations, not just of this country, even beyond Nigeria. In fact, permit me to share, this happened to a close person of mine, very close, apparently my own elder sister. When, of course, we are Yorubas, as you know from my name. When her husband died, the family of the husband, they came to collect the car and whatever property they are aware of that the man owned, in quotes, not minding whether it was the man and his wife that built this wealth together. So it's not taking a jab on any. So these are things that we need to start asking ourselves questions. How do we see these things? Number one, what needs to be done? How do we arrest the situation? Yes, people may be keeping quiet over time and not saying anything, but is that right? Are these the things that we need to uphold, or start correcting, changing the narrative to correct the practices? Let's move because of time. It helps promote economic equality. It also helps improve educational opportunities for children. But then these are just 10. The list goes on. All right. Social justice. All right. This is the end of we've taken more than the time I expected we would take, but I'm happy that we've had quite some good conversations, feedbacks, and a bit of argument, healthy arguments. Yes, I like that. And we should have healthy arguments amongst ourselves, and we should do them equitably too. Somebody should have a turn, their own opportunity to speak, another person speaks, and then we look at it. And it's not about winning argument for winning argument's sake. It should be about learning. It should be about also learning to agree when you see a superior argument that is giving you facts and figures, that is progressive. All right, no argument for argument's sake, but progressive, that will help better the lives of people that are involved and even people beyond. Some of the discussants to a particular matter in certain corridors are not even directly connected to the people who benefit from them. And that's how governments all over the world should run. That people who are in the corridors of power are not necessarily related to those who should benefit from them. But those people who are beneficiaries should benefit because these people are in power. And who knows whether the next governor is here with us, whether the next senator is here with us, whether the next, chairman of your own local government. We should carry this knowledge to impact lives positively. All right, I think I will stop at this junction. Last set of questions, interventions before I hand over to our hosts, the organizers. Yes. Contributions, questions, just 2 or 3, and then we'll wrap it up. This is already past 8. We need to wrap it up about now. Any question, any thought, any inclusion, subtraction? Yes, I hope I'm not alone by myself, by the way. Okay, I'm not alone. Justin, talk to me quickly.
Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Okay, there was something I wanted to ask. Recently Nigeria are calling for protests that will come up on August or so. So I just wanted to ask, is protest a civic right?
Absolutely, yes. The
Okay.
ability to join in peaceful protests. But of course, you have to relate that with other factors. If there is an impending scare, news of violence to erupt, and it's factual, it's only ideal that the law enforcement agencies might say, hey, you can't protest at this point in time, and then you too, as a prospective Protestant, you are able to also reason along that line to say, hey, this protest may be hijacked and it may turn to something else. Just like we have seen in recent, in times past. Look at the NSAS protest. It got out of hand at some point, though some people still argue that it's still something you can't run away from. And this is applicable all over the world. It's not a Nigerian thing. For example, look at Black Lives Matter when it came up in the United States of America. And states by state, people were adopting the protest. At some point, it didn't have any specific leader or direction again. At some point, it became violent. People started, the streets were shut down. People started breaking shops, looting. America, it's been long that America had that kind of experience. I mean, the free world, as they are called, had that kind of massive experience, massive response from the society, from the people. And you saw what it erupted into chaos, even all to breaking into the White House. You recall, breaking into the White House, and it became a real mess until the situation was. So even those who were happy, saying that, yes, we are the ones that championed it, at some point they had to start coming down to say, hey, this is not what we wanted. And in fact, they had to start recounting certain statements to say, we are not part of that. We are not part of that. This is what we did. This is what we just want to achieve. We just want to go out there and let the government know that this case cannot die like that. It must be well judged. I hope that makes sense to you. So okay, protest is ideally an instrument of any group of people to lodge their complaints, so to say, to present their position, to advocate their standpoint, which may be rights, but then it needs to be done within the confines of what is acceptable. Yes, we know that at times too, a government body may just come up and say, because it's going to be hijacked. I mean, those claims also come up, even when there's no news, there's no facts to that there's going to be any hijack. They can create any reason and say, no, you can't protest because of this, because of that. But then it's just, that's why you can see that the organized labor and the other allied bodies, they're able to come up and say, we're embarking, and then they send the warnings to government to say, if in 7 days demands are not met, we are going to embark on, a nationwide strike, blah, 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 blah. I hope that is helpful.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you too. Yes. Any other one, and then we stop here.
Hello.
Hello. Yes.
Okay.
Please come on.
Yeah. Voting is a civic right.
Your name again, sir?
Bartholomew.
Yes, sir.
Voting is a civic right.
Yes.
Okay. And everybody